la la. Ah, c'est magnifique. Ah, welcome. It's a little bright out here, so I had to put on some sunglasses. You know, the French countryside, the heart of France.
How'd you get out there
no
so
big deal.
fast?
Man,
Yeah, hey, travel is a wonderful thing.
I don't go outside.
I would like to spend a little time here, though, because I feel like in Academy, we have a little bit of a different perspective on things, especially. Maybe a little bit whimsical, maybe a little bit crazy, but I like to call it le perspective académique. Yes, it is French. I'm sorry to tell you. But in all actuality, Academy is full of wonderful things. And apparently we have some great storytellers here. So I'm going to test your skills, Mr. Cubby, Mr. Bearman, because I'm going to have you recount us the tale of the game we just saw, but through a few pictures that I have chosen out. So I'm going to transfer this over as we have the wonderful art gallery of the Louvre coming out to make sure that this is all possible. Okay. I'm going to transfer over really quick and see if we can get that started. So you're going to tell the story based on the team. I'm going to give you C9.
Okay.
So tell this story based on the perspective of C9.
All right, let me, you know what? We don't need notes. We don't need notes.
We don't.
Okay, let's see. Look, number one. All right, so this is a great start for the side of C9, because guess what? We are trying to save the fact that our top laner is 0-3 and transition whatever power we can into the bot lane. So guess what? We're going to force off Instinct away. We already had the beautiful flash engage from Ketong that already got an early kill. So this is how we doom TSM, right? Because we're going to just take away the minions from their AD carry. We're going to be just fine. Instinct's going to have a tough game. He's been having some really good Aphelios games, and we're going to make sure that, that ends up being the case, which, guess what? Instinct, he's 1-2-1, but we forgot they have 2 marksmen, which ended up being a problem. And now, they're rotating on us. Copy, it's quirky. We scale. Sometimes things don't go well early, but they go well later. But, quirky, I guess what we learned is rockets don't win against lasers, at least not until the rockets get a lot of scaling. I don't know if that fits history at all. I don't know if that fits what's in the lore, but yeah, that's what ended up happening in this game. And C9, they're going to be trying to walk into the darkness here, which, this looks like a horror movie at this point, right? It is pitch black, and we know that there is a big monster.
I'm so glad you got my artistic vision for this one.
It's pitch black. There's a really big monster on the other side, and you know what? For whatever reason, we think that we have to go that way. And we didn't even get to see the monster. Like, the minions of the monster, got us beforehand. As, things, there was some light with getting the bot lane behind, but overall, when you leave top lane on an island, sometimes things don't go well.
All right. Good try for the first one. I think we test your storytelling ability. I think you get a passing grade.
Okay.
Now we got to get the mad magical take on it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and give you TSM and see what you can do with it, because it was a very fun start to the series. So
right.
let's hear what you got.
All right, here I'm gonna turn up my volume just a touch, because once upon a time in top lane, we had 5 hungry bears roaming around, trying to see what they could find. But then we had a poor pirate show up into the top lane and get absolutely wrecked. He couldn't even flash away, just died, mauled to death by the 5 hungry bears. And with that food now in their belly, they wanted more. So they went to the bot lane, and they looked for all more. They found King. They thought he was going to kill them, but then Hyper said, "Hell no, dude. You're going to die." And he killed them fast. He killed them quick. He got Sue fed, and it was quick.
Would you maybe say spears, shields? Spears, shields?
You could say that,
okay.
I suppose. But, you could also say that C9 couldn't do a single damn thing that game. As even here in the bot lane, when they thought they could have a play, they still got dove by Hyper over and over again. And, yeah, Corky just died. He just died.
So that's how the game went, according to Magical.
There you
go. But, you did okay.
I like the approach.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the
So the
approach. I like the
sultry
storytelling aspect. You really sold that we were like sitting in a living room being told a story.
I should have had a fireplace behind me.
You wanna come on the podcast? I have a podcast. You sound great. We could
Well,
do
that's
crime
only when I'm not
mysteries.
yelling really loud. So it's like maybe 1% of my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, ça c'était le Perspective Academy. It was the Perspective of Academy. I feel like it was a very fun one.
I appreciate the
interesting
lore
start
lending
to the
their art
series.
gallery and
Yeah,
the expensive plane ticket that we have in our budget for you.
Yes, and the fact that I need
I thought he was
to
just-
quickly get on another plane to get back to my broadcast setup to make sure I'm ready to go for the rest of the day. But it's been a fun time in France. It's been a fun. I'm gonna stay here for a little bit. We keep hanging out. I already got the sunglasses on, so we're hanging out outside. But in all actuality, I do want to talk about the next game. Maybe a little bit more of the art that we're gonna be seeing cresting into the second game of the day.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that for game 2, it's really clear what C9 wants to do. I think that blinding Gangplank against Viper when he plays all the marksman champion, and we know that he can play Lucian, I probably wouldn't blind Gangplank again. So if we do get same sides for this next one, which fun fact, we actually do. I think that blind Gragas or Ornn returning to that might do a few more favors to the side of C9 Academy if they do want to continue to try and get the scaling identity down.
I mean, I'm kind of just looking at it. And you know what champion was open that everyone's been complaining about? Renekton.
But Mad Magical.
Don't you bring that evil in here?
I'm
all
just
right?
saying. It was open.
Here in Academy, we have a little something with C9 we'd like to call Croc Watch, which, watching out for the Renekton. C9, no picks or bans of Renekton, and also Renekton is 1-0 against them. But I will give you the fact that Renekton has been terrifying, as I know that in LCK, I even checked the stats from last night, but before last night, it had 100% pick ban presence, and it had not been picked.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's that's a lot of crocodilian.
It's Croc Watch. No Crocs are allowed on the watch of LCK.
Croc Watch 2022.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes out. Keep your radios near. Make sure you're listening to all the hit news on crocodilians. But I think the biggest thing for me is making sure that this ADC matchup doesn't get blown open, kind of like last game. Like, don't let the pressure from the top side, right, if it happens again, be snowballed into the bot side and finding ways to defend against that, right? I think that's going to be the most interesting thing. But I do believe, guys, we're ready for you to take it away for game number 2.
Well, then, I suppose we will take it away. I was about to say, you know what? It would be really good to stop those marksmen. Crocodile, just saying. But you know what? We'll have to see. We'll have to see if Cloud9 actually learned, to pick that maybe. But before then, I do want to talk about how we do have the same sides. I actually kind of wanted to see sides swapped. I wanted to see how Cloud9 was going to be able to perform on that red side. Sure, they got their first win yesterday on the blue side, and when they went onto the red side, wasn't nearly as good. But I actually kind of liked some of the picks they had in that draft. I think it looked a lot more solid. It was just kind of the performance that it boiled down to that really was their struggling point.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Corky Jinx, I really like Leon as a pick. That 4-second stun is not balanced. So when you have that able to peel for your big carries, I'm always a bit of a fan. But curious to see how things end up swapping up into the next game, as I know that we are hopping on in. And I think something else I do want to credit TSM for, keep in mind, they did ban out three enchantresses, and it looks like they're going to do the same again. This is a big identity difference between Keetong and Yurson, where Keetong, known for those enchantresses, has hit rank 5 playing them as such, and played them very well yesterday, whereas Yurson only plays engaged champs, really, at least when it comes to stage games. So taking away some of those enchantresses, making sure that it's playing in Yurson's comfort zone against Keetong really paid off for TSM in that one. And C9 even has to admit as such as they're going to pay some respects over to TSM and Yurson with that rel ban.
So here, I'm actually curious. Does Cloud9 just walk in Thresh? They banned it last time. That is a good option, but instead, they just give it over. Instant Gearsol, and they could utilize that so well in the bot lane.
We should see Aphelios Thresh here. I would not be surprised. If they wanted to deny the Jinx, they could. But Instinct, in his 6 games on stage between Lock-In and Academy, 5 of them have been on Aphelios. That last game was the first one off of it on the Jhin. And yeah, I mean, that is an option, but also, why not get Hyper that Xin Zhao again after that last performance, right? If he wants to opt into that same matchup, I think that where we might see the pivot now coming in for C9 is I think they're going to have to lock in Trundle now. I think that giving Frost Forest Trundle at the moment, he played that matchup very well in C9's victory yesterday against the Xin Zhao, and I want to see C9A take that here.
Completely agree. I do like the Trundle pick here. If they do opt for it, look at that. Boom. Immediately.
Here comes
they just go for it so quick.
Or Victor? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, the Victor. I actually was expecting the Jinx.
So this gives Takeover now the opportunity to match with the Corki. If not, I think the Takeover is going to face some bans, whereas C9, King's going to be playing a different champion. I have to believe that TSM is going to narrow down that marksman pool, and getting rid of, I think, Jinx Ezreal makes a lot of sense for them moving into the next phase, but want to see if they match support or match mid here. They have a choice, and support's going to be the call. So Yurson going to take that Nautilus.
Not going for the Thresh at all. Instead, just going for another engage support here. Pretty much going for the rinse and repeat that we're used to seeing from Yurson. While Thresh has that capability to play more of an engage, he also is a good tool to kind of have the safety, the repositioning tool that you sometimes see with champions such as Aphelios, such as Jinx. And now here, you know what? Cloud9, do you ban the Tryndamere? Do you take that away so Takeover can't play that into Victor again?
I would respect that. I feel like you want to take away Corki just because of the state that Corki's in at the moment. And most of these players they can play each side of the Victor-Corki matchup all right. So I think that's going to be one ban, as we do see that. I expect an Ezreal to be taken away here, something that really outranges and out-interacts with what TSM is showing at the moment, something that King has been very proficient on throughout his entire career, whether it is Oceanic play or here in Academy. And then
what about Caitlyn, though? Where's Caitlyn? We're just seeing that completely ignored here.
It's true. I actually kind of like Caitlyn, or like Jhin into Caitlyn. So I feel like, and it's not a great pairing with the Leona, so that's why we're not seeing that one on the board. Yeah.
I actually thought it wouldn't be too bad just because at least it's something that can kind of help out Keetong if he goes for those engages, especially if he's able to get a good Zenith Blade that lands on. But wow, Syndra is actually the lock-in here for Takeover in this mid lane against Victor. This is a champion, I mean, I talk about support Syndra, but it's a champion that we kind of forget in the mid lane sometimes and how strong she is.
I'm going to be curious to see. I think that Takeover in this matchup against Trundle and Victor almost has to opt for Phase Rush. But the big part about Syndra is that she gets outscaled pretty heavily by Victor. But if you are able to win that mid-jungle 2v2, Syndra provides so much gank assist, so much pressure. So I really want to see how Hyper and Takeover interact and see if they can outplay Frost Force and Copy. Whereas something for Lawrence, we said, we don't want to see that Gangplank blind again. Looks like we're getting back onto the Gragas, which I like. And I really want to see what Viper has in store for this one.
As do I. I'm waiting to see what this lock-in is going to be for King. I'm kind of expecting it to be more something like this Aphelios, something that we're kind of used to seeing in the bot lane with the current meta.
I mean, Xin Zhao and Nautilus have to jump into you. That's where Aphelios is really at his best, so that makes a lot of sense. And Gwen, this has been the premier matchup we've been seeing in LCK when it comes to the Gragas, as I think that's why they didn't end up banning the Tryndamere. To answer your question there, Mad Magical, is Gragas really good matchup in Tryndamere. I believe it was Icon debuting that mid lane on the world stage when Tryndamere was getting some play there at our last international tournament. And Viper going to be taking the Gwen to round things out. I do like this a lot into the Victor and the Aphelios, right? With that Shroud, you can dodge out on a lot of damage and heavily outscale the front line of Trundle and Gragas.
And last time we saw the Gwen into Gragas matchup, it was just yesterday. It was one of our first games. It was our first series on this secondary stream between Golden Guardians and 100 Thieves in Game 2, where Gompsu played Gragas and then Tony Top went Gwen. It wasn't really the best for Gompsu. It wasn't like he was able to do much, and if you ever need to dodge away from the barrels, just put your W down. Boom, you dodge away from so much damage.
And we're going to have to see if that can be interacted with in the game, as we are getting close to spawning on in. I think that's something, given the last game, Mad Magical, that I'm really looking out for. It's really two things. One, TSM were able to snowball through that top lane with Viper, right? This is a strategy that we did expect from them, but Gragas is really hard to break. So I want to see if Hyper can maybe switch up that pathing and maybe try and go somewhere else. I think playing towards the Jhin Nautilus could work. And then second off, if he's able to navigate this Trundle matchup, as we saw Frost Force smashed the Trundle matchup yesterday against Rosethorn when it was Trundle versus Xin Zhao. This is not the easiest matchup for Xin Zhao, and if you make one mistake, it can be punished so hard by Trundle with that pillar, with that ultimate, with that chomp. So really want to see if Hyper can be careful and put together 2 good games, as his first game was outstanding.
I completely agree with you. It's looking at this Trundle, that's where my eyes will continue to go. One, because Frost Force playing it again into the Xin Zhao, replicating what he did yesterday, but also because who it's against. It's against Hyper, a player who likes to try to look for these early skirmishes, likes to try to see if he can utilize leads in the side lanes or in his solo lanes in order to invade. Now it's going to be a lot more risky. He's not going to be as comfortable going against that Trundle with even the pressure that can come in from that top side of the map.
And this is a comp that for C9, once again, does heavily outscale, really sticking to that theme. So going to have to see if they can do so in this game, as they failed to do so in the last game, but it is the best 2, right? So you get a second shot.
You do. We've loaded up onto the Rift for Game 2, Day 2, Week 1. Cloud9 still on the same side as that first game, but definitely a different look to their draft. And I'm curious to see how things are going to go, especially because they don't have to worry about Lawrence getting the shenaniganeries top side.
How'd you come up with the shenaniganeries?
Yeah.
What's the creation of that?
My brain.
Okay.
Big brain.
Okay. No references, just, getting it out there.
I have no idea, honestly. I just started saying it one day. I like most things. I kind of just talk until people tell me to stop, and then even then I don't listen.
Well, I'm glad I can get some listening from you, Mad Magical, as appreciate that. We're going to have to see if C9, TSM might have listened to their coaches in the halftime break. Have gotten anything figured out from them. So we are diving onto the Rift for Game 2, and it looks like both junglers are going to be starting on their respective red buffs.
Nothing too crazy here from either side. Cloud9 don't really have to because it's the Trundle against Xin Zhao. Well, it's not like TSM can really do too much because of that same matchup. We'll continue to highlight that just because it's going to be hard for Hyper. And I want to see what he's going to do to circumvent that. Where can he really go? You talked about, maybe the bot lane, especially because you have Jhin and Nautilus. But it's not like TSM tend to play around that lane too often. They kind of put Instinct on the island as opposed to the top side. It's usually Viper that gets a lot of the attention from Hyper.
Like how we're watching this mid lane matchup. Really good movement from Copy, dodging out on these first 3 Qs.
Nice.
Yeah, well done on the side of C9, as we do have, looks like Frost Force going for the full clear, whereas Hyper going to skip over those Krugs and maybe try and get on the map a little bit faster. Is going to skip over the Wolves again. But we do have Instinct and Yurson shoving rather hard in the bot lane, as not quite able to weave that dredge line through the mini wave. That big hitbox that it's gonna can't get away with everything with that, right?
I miss Smite as an option for bot lane, especially when you play either Nautilus or Blitzcrank, because you could just smite the minions as you throw out your hook, and so people kind of like, I'm safe behind this minion. Psych.
That seems way more useful than Exhaust, right? That has to be, right? That one scenario that you have level 2.
Well,
I like it.
Level 1 through like 4. It's more than just one level, Cubby. Come on.
I mean, I'll take it over Ignite. No.
Okay. I was going to say, would you really? I don't think so. I mean, neither do Ketone or your song, as right now, Frost Force, nice pillar on to take over, but a really good scatter of the week to stay safe and hold on to that flash while Hyper shows up, getting the flash out of Copy. Looking for the 3-talent strike, going to be able to get it onto Frost Force, who's taking a lot of damage coming in from these dodgeballs. Has to be careful, though. They got the red buff slow. They could do a dive with the flash away, flash from Hyper, too.
I'm curious that Hyper jumped in there. I feel like he could have held on to that flash, but I think importantly enough, the flash difference is the fact now that Copy doesn't have his and Takeover does. So I think that does give Hyper something to look for, as, he's actually looking for a lot here.
I kind of like this play, actually, to be honest.
Health bar advantage.
I was going to say I liked the play from Hyper. Getting the flash off of Frost Force, they have a push topside. Look where Yurson already is. He's pathing to make sure he can help out Hyper and possibly even threaten a dive either mid lane or top lane.
Good call, right? Yurson dropping the reset there to make sure that he's able to support. They're going to go for this Gromp, too. Viper's rotating. They're really trying to accelerate Hyper.
I like this. It's what we wanted to see. We were asking ourselves, what can Hyper do to really mitigate the advantage that Frost Force will have with this matchup? Answer is, get 2 flashes mid, invade because your support shows up, and there's nothing Frost Force can do.
So Hyper already up 2 camps, and I mean, this is a really nice improvement arc from yesterday. I know it's day 1, don't want to have too many overreactions, but it was a tough series for Hyper, right? Both games in that Xin Zhao versus Viego matchup, Chad really got the best of him, so good to see Hyper bounce back today. Take it to Frost Force a little bit with the help of his team.
This is what you want to see from a team that likes to play pretty aggressively early into the game, right? You want to see that all of them are working together as a unit. They're not just kind of throwing their bodies at the enemy and hoping that it works. They actually have a clear, formulated plan.
And we're seeing more of that plan at least try and come to fruition. As I mentioned, the fact that Copy doesn't have Flash.
And speak of that, Copy no Flash. Leads Keetong showing up here to try to protect him, but they're getting a lot of damage onto both Copy and Keetong all the while. Yurson barely taking any, though King might look for... No, he's not going to. He had Gravitum and Infernum, but just doesn't have that ability to kill Instinct just yet.
Really nice hover from Keetong was a good read there, as when your Victor doesn't have Flash, got to make sure that you're able to protect that lane. If he wasn't there, Victor dies. So the fact that he's able to keep Copy alive, very important to make sure that pick keeps on scaling.
Keetong threatening takeover. While they know the dragon is being taken by TSM, there's not really much they can do. They've been spotted out, so they have to kind of forfeit it. And it allows a lot of time for Frost Force to kind of roam towards the top half of the map, but it's still very early into the game. And it's only going to be a little bit of vision coming in from Cloud9 to try to wrestle some of that control that TSM have so far.
And you can see Lawrence and Viper trading. Both champs have a little bit of sustain. Viper able to deny cannon by threatening that Q, fully stacked. And it's all right to see the Gragas fall behind. As I mentioned in the past game, Lawrence fell pretty far behind in CS in C9's win yesterday, but it didn't matter. Guess what? You're Gragas, right? You're always incredibly useful in these team fights. You have Flash, you can always engage. And Lawrence did have some really nice engages with the body slams and the casts. So I want to see if he can up his play from the last game and try and have a big impact on this one. As he's being given some help.
Frost Force kind of hanging out on the other side and trying to see if he can get into the top lane. But it's still Gwen versus Gragas. There's not really much backup you're going to be able to have coming in from either of them, because this Gragas-Trundle combo, we were looking at the Trundle to kind of get the early advantage. He's so far behind. Look at that. 20 CS already behind Hyper this early into the game in the matchup that we were expecting to win.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it really speaks to, you know, the impact that your lanes can have, right? Because we saw Viper support that one invade. Hyper also won out on that mid lane 2v2 because he went there early, where Syndra still has a lot more gank assist and a lot better to support ganks coming in mid compared to the Victors. So Hyper doing a much better job of playing around those win cons and making sure that you're able to make the most out of those champion spikes.
But the one thing I do like about Trundle is even when he is behind, he's still fairly useful. You just got to be able to get some items, and you're going to be able to deny a lot from the enemy team. You're always going to be a good skirmisher. You're going to be a good frontline too. But the thing is, you got to just make sure that Hyper is not getting out of control like he did in Game 1.
And another big top lane roam.
Both
though. Hyper and Yurson. Hyper's pulling the wave.
Not much mana, though, for Lawrence. Here's Hyper showing up. They're just waiting it. They're being patient. This is a good play. First blood from Hyper.
Wow. Yurson took 2 tower shots and dredged line out of the second, as really, really good support play coming out. This is the second game in a row Yurson has hit that top lane timer with his jungler and has synced it up with the top laner's waves. And TSM has worked as a team to make sure they're getting a lead for Viper up there, as that's also going to snowball into that first Rift Herald. Frost Force going to get a nice consolation prize for himself, but TSM coming out on top of the first big proactive play of the game, at least on the top side. The fact that King's going to pick up 3 points here on his own is big.
Never seen a Curtain Call do less damage before. But that's because we still haven't really seen that back to get that Mythic just yet from Instinct. Instead, more using it to try to scare off King and Keetong, while it allowed Yurson to show up back into the bot lane because they had Hyper getting that eye first. 2 objectives that have been picked up by TSM Academy. Another early lead we're seeing out of them. Again, they're just consistent when it comes to this early game. If they're able to get these leads, they're a scary team.
They have been today. And I
Even
think
yesterday, though, when they got the early lead, they were scary. It was just the one bad team fight where it all fell apart.
Yeah, they had two tough team fights that helped them make sure that was not a 2-0 for themselves, or I should say a 1-1 for themselves, as they ended up getting 2-0'd. But let's see if they can improve upon it today as Frost Force.
Nice damage on a Frost Force. They've got him over the wall, but he's going to be safe. He used the Subjugate just to heal back up a little bit.
And I like Hyper immediately trying to get involved, and Ketong's actually on a reset. If he rotates on King, he's going to get Summoner Spells out.
Ooh, this is looking dicey. Little mana. He's got the Exhaust and Flash, though. He can't stay relatively safe.
Oh, no.
Still underneath the turret. There's that Exhaust that I was talking about, getting a little bit of distance away from Hyper. Hyper knew with that purple gun, too, you don't want to be underneath the turret. He could root you, and you're going to die pretty quickly.
I think if the Deadly Flourish connects, though, they get 2, as Instinct canceled his auto, casting the W, and now Hyper going to face check Ketong.
Yeah, but it's Ketong. He's face-checking. Frost Force is going to be the one you have to worry about, and he's right over the wall, so Hyper is playing a little bit cautiously, knowing that that's always a possibility. That's why he had to flash away when the pillow was thrown.
That was an incredibly respectful flash, and I honestly don't think that Hyper needed a flash there, as he had Crescent Guard, and Frost Force doesn't have ultimate.
True, but it's still risky. It's one of those calls, right, where you look at it and you're like, maybe you don't have to flash, but then again, if you don't flash and you end up dying because they just lock you down so long, Ketong, I think, just had hit level 6 at that point too. It can get really bad really quick, right? And you don't want to risk anything this early when you have, even if it's only 400 gold, it's still a lead that you have with the control you've been able to dictate on the map.
And I think that is going to be the big story as we start to move into the mid-game. What can TSM do with this control, right? Because they drafted for it, they're playing towards it, and we saw them successfully get a win in Game 1, but we know that C9 outscales again. And really have to see what C9 does around this 3rd and 4th Dragon, if they're going to contest it, if they're going to challenge TSM at those points, or if they're going to wait for more, as Hyper is cleaning up the 2nd Ocean Dragon, and we'll actually be getting a Mountain Soul on the Rift.
3 neutral objectives picked up by TSM. Haven't dropped on this game. Cloud9 look timid. It's not like they can really do much. So you look topside at Gragas into Gwen. Not sure, you don't expect to die too often to the Gwen, but you're not really going to threaten the Gwen either. The Trundle struggling into Xin Zhao, the spot lane too. You can see right there. Ketong gets pulled back in, even though they got the thing played into the back line and get a lot of damage. The flash away coming in from Instinct to survive that entire time. Curtain call open wide, and Hyper showing back up into the bot lane. There's no exhaust this time around. They've got the dredge line kill already onto Ketong, looking for the root. Going to be doubled up. The flash in to make sure they can get the root with him going golden because he had a stopwatch, and Instinct takes him down.
Your Son is playing so good this game on the Nautilus. That's 2 roams top that he was able to hit, support his jungler, and now a beautiful fight in terms of support mechanics as he's able to guarantee the kill. Now Frost Force caught out.
Oh, that is rough. A kill for Viper, too. This is all just starting to blow up wide for Cloud9 with TSM getting so many leads across the board.
Has his first brick for Instincts as well, kind of answering the fact that King did get 3 solo plates during the Shelly take. TSM with that bot lane play and dropping Shelly bot now get the whole turret for their own marksman and will even get off a 2nd charge. Yeah,
yes, they do.
Wow, big deal for the side of TSM as now that the first turret's down, it's a 3K gold lead, and TSM seem to be off to the races again, thanks to the play of their jungler and support doing a great job syncing up in this one.
Sure, this could be an overreaction, but looking at the difference from Game 1 to Game 2 for TSM, I'm seeing a massive, massive difference, and I gotta praise TSM for this. Yurson and Hyper, their communication seems so much more cohesive.
Compared to yesterday, yeah.
Exactly, and I'm loving it. It seems like they're both now on the same page when it comes to these plays.
I will give Hyper some credit for that. I think that yesterday, we kind of mentioned his pathing. I know that Game 2 of yesterday, he was 12 CS trying to contest the Viego's blue. I don't want to get too specific, but he fell really far behind in the first clear yesterday, and I think that really hurt the fact how TSM wants to play with jungle and to try and snowball the other lanes. Hyper's staying on schedule here, and this enables him to find plays like this.
Look at this. Copy's just so far out. He's got the Chaos Storm burning and ticking onto Hyper, but just no damage to actually get the kill onto him.
Okay.
They're now using 2 more members on top of Hyper, and it took so damn long for them to actually kill him.
Still, the trade is actually well worth it for the side of C9, right? They get the buff, they walk out, they trade 1 for 1, and King is going to now try and get the execute, which I don't think he will be able to. Your son has ult.
Let's see. Does he
He's got
want
ult.
to use the ult? He will use it just to make sure there's no execute for King.
Yep. All right. Well, King going down. I still think the play is okay for the side of C9 just because they got the big shutdown and were able to walk out in the play. Lawrence and King were able to get some free time as well. The fact that TSM rotated over, but TSM, I still think the way that Hyper and Yurson are working together really well. That's the first play we've seen them not 100% in sync in the 2 games we've had this series, truly.
Well, I think it was more just because Cloud9 were...
Yeah, they had numbers.
Yeah, they had the numbers. They were outmanning the side of TSM, making it hard for them to actually go in. And regardless, Hyper still got the kill on Copy. He no longer has that blue buff that they tried to steal away. So now they can just rinse and repeat, look for him again, and they can bully him every single damn time.
Did I just see that dredge line go around a minion and find Copy?
You did.
Oh my. All right, Yurson. This guy is just a highlight reel on Nautilus. I mean, last year, right? Remember the hook that he had mid-lantern, right? I mean, doing it again this game on one of his best champs. His Viper will go down, but
he's got a lot of damage. Will finally die to 1 more auto attack from Frost Force. But guess what he got that whole time?
Yeah.
A turret and the jungler to focus on him in the bot lane, which means the Rift Herald's so easy for Hyper.
And this is really important against a Victor because taking away his mid lane turret, not an easy thing to do, right? Especially a Victor is able to participate in fights early, get the early evolve to make sure that that laser's doing the double damage. So I really want to see the second Rift go mid for the side of TSM. Try and take away that mid-outer from Victor, just given the fact that mid-outer, important objective, but also very difficult to get against that champion.
It is. And here, they're going to just get the recalls off for a lot of their members, spend some of that gold, so that way they can go towards that mid lane. You can see the ping. There it was. They're saying, hey, we need to go mid. We need to make sure we take this turret. Hell, they get that. Yeah, it's objective bounties, but it's a top lane turret for a important tier 1. As you had talked about, it's so difficult to actually take that structure.
Yeah.
I think this is a worthwhile play for TSM. This is all great. They get the turret, they're going to get the dragon, they're going to be within soul point, and what do they trade? 1 turret with some objective gold bounty? I don't think that's a big loss.
Honestly, I like the point you're making, man, Magical. Because if we want to talk about cascading plays too, this is a part like off the back of Viper's like death bottom lane, right? That's why they got the Rift Herald. That's why this play works out. I think Hyper's going to go down.
I think he will as well, but he's going to get a lot of damage all the while the entire time. So they're going to look to see if they can body block for King just to keep him alive. They might not be able to turn for the dragon, especially now that Viper died topside.
Okay, so TSM mis-executing a little bit, trying to get both turrets. I think if they just take the 1 and take the dragon, they're fine. But C9 actually... We kind of teased this, right? The fact that we were looking to see what they're going to do around that 3rd and 4th dragon, see if they even contest the 3rd. They didn't contest it. It's still on the map. They're ignoring it. And they've gotten so much by doing that off of this top side.
And look at how that's impacted the gold difference between the 2 junglers.
Yeah.
That was a massive lead that Hyper had previously, and that is completely gone.
C9 utilizing those shutdowns on the map and the objective bounties really well. Also, changed my mind. The dopamine hit of objective bounties is better than Collector. I am just throwing that out there.
No, Axiom Arc is the best.
Yeah, but that doesn't have like a cool sound effect. Or,
True.
999 popping up.
All
on
right,
the
you know what?
screen.
Fair. I'll give you that because right now we have the Dragon take coming in from Frost Force, but now they got to escape. The dive coming in from Hyper with the Zenith Blade on top of him as well, but Ketong's going to get at least 1 ulti down before he dies to take over.
Honestly, I think the last 3 minutes of play has been really good for C9, right? They were able to take this dragon that's massive, right? That buys them an extra 5 minutes in the hard scaling composition. They were able to trade out more gold while they ignored it, and oh no.
That's tragic, though. The flash from Lawrence, the damage coming in, using the explosive cast, but still dying.
Oh, Yurson finds another one. That one's kind of mispositioning and not able to get the dash fast enough on Lawrence, but oh god, Yurson just keeps on finding these dredge lines, snowballing things forward for TSM. And all the meanwhile, they were taking that turret, Hyper just farming up the jungle.
If game 1 was Hyper's game, game 2 is Euroson's at this moment. This Nautilus is looking so dirty. And I was kind of curious too, because yesterday wasn't the best performance on that Nautilus. We saw oftentimes getting caught out was too squishy, wasn't able to really do much to impact the game. This is a massive shift. And you can see what happens when he's able to engage reliably and confidently. He's got an even Shroud completed as well, like he did last game, so they can have even more explosive damage coming in from members like Takeover and like Instinct.
And now we're just going to have to see if he can, Yurson can continue to snowball this into the Baron, as the big purple worm is up in 40 seconds. C9 has snuck a ward behind the side of TSM, and that top lane,
A lot of wards.
or that top red brush that C9 has as a potential TP. But you can see King, he knows that he can't farm that wave, right? He doesn't see, all of his buddies are on reset. That wave's crashed in the middle. He has no business being up there, and intelligently decides to base, because TSM was hunting for him if he did show on that side.
I like this setup, though, coming in from TSM, because I look at their champions, and you know, it's not the worst Baron take. I've seen far worse compositions with it, but it's not like they're going to be able to burst down immediately.
Yeah, you got Jhin. As long as you have Gwen there, you should be fine.
Exactly, but that's the thing. You're going to have to force Viper to be there. Viper wants to be able to secure a lot of pressure on the side lane before TPing in on a flank. He's not going to want to start it off at the moment, and with Yurson getting caught out like this nice pillar put down by Frostfire, forcing the flash out of him just so he can survive.
That's 2 ults burn, but they do get the flash, and I like the cleverness coming out of C9 as well, right? Use the stun, line up the pillar, make sure that dredge line connects with the wrong piece of terrain. They do get 1 summoner spell out of Yurson, and C9 just really continuing to try and slow things down here from the side of TSM.
And that's what they have to hope for. They tried a little bit last game, but it was just a lot more clean play from TSM. They were able to really close that game out fast. Well, 29 minutes, right around there, is when they finished that game off with the massive leads that they were able to gather for Hyper and Viper. Here, the game has slowed down kind of similarly, but I'm still curious to see what Cloud9 does to make sure that it continues to stay slow like this.
I think that just, keep on forcing out spells. Like, force TSM to, always have something down when they want to go for a fight, right? Like, just bleed out anything that you can take from them, whether that's a Nautilus ultimate, a flash on anyone. Trying to find those little skirmishes where you can get the small advantage and disengage, right? Because then it actually gives you something to focus on in team fights, right? If you have shutdowns available and you have carries without flash, then everyone knows, like, all right, guys, like, Jhin has no flash. Let's dogpile. I think that has to be the plan here for the side of C9. But also, it's going to get a little bit harder. Map's opening up a little bit more. Baron's up. Dragon's up in a minute. And TSM actually have started this.
Another pick attempted onto Yurson. This time, it's a lot more lucky. He's got no flash. They got the kill. And that helps out when you have a Shadow Flame. And they're going to force TSM off of this objective.
I really like the play out of Ketong, actually, in the later stages of this one. Nautilus didn't opt for that Aftershock. It's actually very squishy if he's not able to get off his crowd control. And you see him there being blown up without the flash.
Interesting curtain call. Using that to clear out the minions so that this tier 1 turret won't fall easily.
I think that you give that and keep the cooldown for the dragon fight, but maybe with Yurson being late on the map, they just don't think that they want to take it. I'm not really sure, as TSM did go for a full reset a little bit late, but same with C9 as they are trying to match, and I think that it's really important here for TSM to get this dragon, right? Get to that soul point. If they don't, they're facing more resistances on health stackers like Gragas, Trundle, Leona, right? And I think that it would buy another 5 minutes for C9 to continually scale, so I think it's really important that TSM takes this.
I agree. That's why they have Viper here, too. He's not even looking for a TP flank. He's making sure he can commit for the fight.
King's mid.
Scare off Cloud9.
Okay.
With King mid, it's going to be a trade of that dragon for the turret.
This is okay for C9, right? They do see that. TSM really needed that objective, but they're at least trading out okay for it, as now we're posturing for a fight.
Yeah,
Keep your eye on your Son. Still no flash.
A little bit of damage on the Ketong on the side, too, from Takeover. Making sure that's going to be difficult. They have the Scuttle Crab utilized here. throw it back in. Going to be able to pull back in
pillar.
Keechung with a lot of damage coming in onto Lawrence with that needlework too, doing a lot from the side of Viper. With Hyper going right back in, being able to get the kill on a copy. Looking for more. They're trying to get on top of the carries, but they just don't have the damage. He's flashing over the wall. Still alive. They've got one kill, but Gwen's gone. They got to be careful though. Look where King's positioned at the moment.
Split.
Trying to see if he can at least get a little bit more damage on it. Instinct, who flashed over the wall. It's just not enough. The death on Lawrence as well is going to secure a win for TSM with your son still making it out.
That fight got so split, but I credit to Hyper, right? The fact that he took the onus to use that flash crescent guard takeover immediately following up. TSM Academy, they are much more in sync today. It's showing in these fights. It's showing on the Rift as they take that one. Frost Force is still up. He has Smite available, but no flash, and it seems to be he's ignoring the Baron. Just going to go for creeps. First Baron going over to TSM.
What can he do? No blast cone, no flash as you talked about. You're not going to be able to stop that. Instead, he's going for at least a little bit. It's the consolation prize of getting anything else on the map that you possibly can to slow down the game.
We'll take those crabs. He's going to beat that one up. And TSM, man, this is a much, much better look for them today. And I really like how they're playing as a squad. It feels like the fact that they're moving as a team in the early game, then they're able to sync up and actually find these winning fights and make sure that they're the ones being the aggressors that they have to be with this composition. It's really paid off for them. So we're going to have to see. I know that yesterday they weren't able to snowball the rest of that first game. This is still a game where C9 possesses massive scaling, especially in copies Victor, which is reasonably farmed up at this point. So I want to see if TSM can close this one out safely.
Though, Copy's pretty far out. It could have gotten a little bad for him there, especially because your son has that flash back up. But Copy will get a bit of damage onto Hyper. I kind of want to shift our perspective before another fight breaks out, because look at the builds right now on the side of Cloud9. They're really putting everything to make sure that King is going to be able to carry a lot of these fights. With the depth charge coming in as well, Curtain Call utilized. Going to be able to get the Solar Flare on the back line on to Takeover. They're waiting this entire time, because Takeover, he's got a lot of damage, waiting it out, but he's back in the fight, and he's shut down. They've got the kill they needed to. Here's Viper showing up a little bit too late to the fight, getting a lot of damage back on it. What a shield coming in from Hyper! Still alive! Viper's going crazy in the entire fight. They're going to be able to take down nearly everyone. Copy going to be the last casualty if he sticks around too long. He is going to book it, though. He wants to get a lot of distance away from the members of TSM.
Viper came in late and just shredded everyone as they all stacked up on the scissors. The ultimate C9 melts at the hands of this Gwen. And TSM take the inhibitor. And have to see if they stick around for more. It's 15 seconds on the carries. I think that's going to be it for them.
Also, that shield for Hyper. That Steric shield was ludicrous.
That was very helpful in making sure that he was able to stay alive and just eat space, eat cooldowns for Viper, who was the big carry of that fight. My goodness. The fact that he was just in the middle of it all. I mean, I think the fully stacked scissors in the ultimate hit 3-4 members on each cast.
I think so, too. I think that's what happened, because they got shredded. It was a close fight until Viper showed up. And now... what is that, a 4,000 gold lead just alone for Viper?
Yeah, I'm going to break rule one of, I'm going to do math on air. That's 3.8K. Not bad on my part, I will say.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, you know, we're trying.
That's not very exact, though. It's not down to the exact single gold, so I'm disappointed. Right now, Viper is finding Lawrence caught out. Nice pull coming in from Yoroson. Nice scout of the week as well, and he is dead meat. Unstoppable instinct.
Viper is setting up this bot wave, so it looks like TSM are going to focus on this bot inhibitor next, and makes a lot of sense given the fact that, of course, this is Mountain Soul spawning in 40 seconds. Lawrence now, no TP, will be a split spawn. This should be... TSM, they have the option to retreat for the Mountain Soul and just pick this up rather safely in a 5v4, but I think they want to stick around and try and bleed out more, at least at the moment.
They're hanging out, just waiting out. We've got 20-ish seconds until we have that Mountain Soul that can be picked up pretty quickly by TSM. The fact that Lawrence doesn't have that TP, even when he spawns, is going to be way too late.
We are kind of stalling for time before this dragon, something small I like. A rapid fire cannon third on Jhin. This is something that was originally kind of being... Hans Sama, I think, was kind of responsible for bringing this over to NA. Instinct. Gives you more movement speed, of course, that range, the utility. Oh no.
K-Tong, look at Viper
no.
again. This flank, we
Look
saw
at
what happened
Viper.
last time. Hyper's taking a lot of damage, but the shield's not nearly as big because it doesn't damn matter. They've got Viper right in the middle of them. Frostforce trying to see if he can defend, but they got the double kill they needed to already for Viper with the damage coming in from Takeover on the other side. The flash coming in from Coffee, but they're going to be able to chase down Lords. They've got the kill coming in. Triple kill even for Viper.
Snip, snip. Everyone falls down on the side of C9 and Viper and Hyper. V2, baby. They're going fast. Able to snowball both games through for TSM Academy. And what a bounce back from yesterday, man, Magical.
And this is what you want to see out of a team. Takes those losses and they learn from their mistakes. We see so few of those from them today. Yurson and Hyper, their coordination, so immaculate. And seeing this change, it is a well-deserved 2-0 they're going to pick up. Whether their first 2-0, sure, of the season. We've only just started, and it is looking really good for TSM Academy.
Great turnaround for them. Instinct in the middle of the pillar on the post-game screen. I like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that for TSM, like, if you looked at C9's games yesterday, you would have known, like, hey, you know what? These guys are going to pick blue. They're playing for scaling. They're going to take really safe blind pick top laners and try and play from there. And I think TSM did a great job of punishing that.
I do too. It looked really good. And I'm going to continue to say this just because it is great to see this change, even in a single day, 24 hours. Hell, less than that, because I think they were the second series of the game yesterday. So it was less than 24 hours. They're able to have this huge change and looked like a far more cohesive team.
And I mean, I think I know that Yurson looked a lot better syncing up with Hyper, but I do want to give Hyper a lot of that credit. I think that him kind of, that second game especially, like, that was a weird path he took early, and I think that really threw off the tempo for like a lot of the game for TSM. But one of the reasons the second game was so one-sided for IMT. But Hyper, he gave Frostforce the same treatment that Chad gave him yesterday. He really turned things around, really cleaned and patched up his play. And him and Yurson syncing up to attack the top lane to make sure that Viper was able to take down C9 and Lawrence. Really beautiful textbook League of Legends being played by this Academy squad. So it's really good to see out of them.
And I want to see this continue throughout this split. I want to see them be able to replicate this kind of success against more teams.
I mean, that's going to be the story throughout. But, hey, at least they got to wrap up week one on a positive note. And I know that for C9, I mean, these players, like, they do have 3 subs slotting in, right? And these aren't permanent additions. Like, I know that from talking with K-Tong, like, his goal was, hey, I want to play really well in these games, try and get higher than rank 5 on the ladder from last year, and try and end up on an Academy team for summer or this upcoming year. So I know that it's, you know, tough 0-2 loss, but, you know, the fact that K-Tong, I think that showing his Leona, he's known for Enchantresses, having that good look in the first game and able to, able to at least, like, try and match some rotates this game to protect the victor when Flash was down. Well, it was some good moments out of the
I'm going to
subs
give
coming
some
in.
respect to K-Tong. Yeah. He, as a support, drew 3 bans immediately.
Both games.
Both games. That's pretty damn impressive.
Message sent as that's something I actually look out for TSM Academy, right? Yurson's champion pool, not too keen on Enchantresses. And honestly, if you have Yurson on your team and you see that guy making engages on, like, Rel, Alistar, and Nautilus, I wouldn't be too keen on Enchantresses either. But interesting that they banned out 3 of them, right? I think that is obviously targeted toward K-Tong, who hit that high rank on the ladder, specializing in those Enchantresses and played him very well yesterday. But I want to see if that continues for TSM, because I feel like it set Yurson up for much more comfortable engage v engage matchups where, to be fair, him and Cody-san did so much work as a bot lane duo in Academy last year.
They did.
And a lot of that was because of Yurson just being so good at those champions too.
Yeah, and that's why I continue to talk about his Alistar even today. It was so good.
Dude, his Alistar's nasty, man. I can't wait to see it again.
Right, and we'll see if we actually ever get that again during the 2022 spring split.
We got
for
the
now,
Rel.
Yeah, we got the Rel, we've got the Nautilus, we just need the Alistar. For now, we're going to